Ooh, said Colin, fasting and raising his camera. Can you hold him still, Harry? Get out of the way, Colin, said Harry angrily. He and Hermione supported one out of the stable and crossed the grounds towards the edge of the forest. Nearly there, one, said Hermione as the gamekeeper's cabin came into view. You'll be all right in a minute. Almost there. They were within 20 feet of Hagrid's house when the front door opened, but it wasn't Hagrid who emerged. Gilderoy Lockhart, wearing robes of palest mauve today, came striding out. Quick! Behind here, Harry hissed, dragging one behind a nearby bush. Hermione followed, somewhat reluctantly. It's a simple matter if you know what you're doing, Lockhart was saying loudly to Hagrid. If you need help, you know where I am. I'll let you have a copy of my book. I'm surprised you haven't already got one. I'll sign one tonight and send it over. Well, goodbye. And he strode away towards the castle. Harry waited until Lockhart was out of sight, then pulled one out of the bush and up to Hagrid's front door. They knocked urgently. Harry appeared at once, looking very grumpy, but his expression brightened when he saw who it was. Been wondering when you'd come to see me. Come in. Don't mind me, Professor Lockhart again. Hermione and Harry supported one another in the one-room cabin, which had an enormous bed in one corner, a fire cracking merrily in another. Hagrid didn't seem perturbed by one slug problem, which Harry hastily explained as he lowered one into a chair. Better out than in, he said cheerfully, plonking a large copper basin in front of him. Get him all up, one. I don't think there's anything to do except wait for it to stop, said Hermione anxiously. Watching one bend over the basin, that's a difficult curse to work at the best of times, but with a broken wand. Hagrid was bustling around, making them tea. His forehand fan was slobbering over Harry. What did Lockhart want with you, Hagrid? Harry asked, scratching Fang's ears. Giving me advice on getting kelpies out of a well, growled Hagrid, moving a half-plucked rooster off his scrubbed table and setting down the teapot like I don't know, and banging on about some banshee. He banished. If one word of it was true, then I'll eat my kettle. It was unlike Hagrid to criticize a Hogwarts teacher, and Harry looked at him in surprise. Hermione, however, said, a voice somewhat higher than usual. I think you're being a bit unfair. Dumbledore obviously thought he was the best man for the job. He was the only man of the job, said Hagrid. offering them a place of treat or tart. Toffee, while coughed scratchily in his basin. Getting very difficult to find anyone for the dark arts job. People aren't too keen to take it on, see? They're starting to think it stinks. No one's lasted long for a while. So tell me, said Hagrid, jerking his head at Ron. Who's he trying to cause? Malfoy, called Hermione something. It must have been really bad because everyone went mad. It was bad, said Ron hoarsely, emerging over the tabletop, looking pale and sweaty. Malfoy called her mudblood Hagrid. Ron dived out of sight again. The fresh wave of slugs made their appearance. Hagrid looked outraged. He didn't, he growled at Hermione. He did, she said. But I don't know what it means. I could tell it was really rude, of course. It's about the most insulting thing he can think of. Gasped Ron, coming back up. Mudblood's a really foul name for someone who's muggle-born, non-magic parents. There are some wizards, like Malfoy's family, who they think they're better than everyone else because they're what people call pure blood. He gave a small burp and a single slug fell into his outstretched hand. He threw it into the basin and continued. I mean the rest of us. No, it doesn't make any difference at all. Look at Neville Longbottom. He's pure blood and can hardly stand a cauldron the right way up. Ah, and they haven't invented a spell our Hermione can't do, said Hagrid proudly, making Hermione go a brilliant shade of magenta. It's a disgusting thing to call someone, said Ron, wiping his sweaty brow with a shaking hand. Dirty blood, see? Common blood. It's mad. Most wizards these days are half-blood anyway. If we hadn't married muggles, we'd have died out. He retched and ducked out of sight again. Well, I don't blame you for trying to cut him, Ron said Harry loudly with the thud of more slugs hitting the basin. But maybe it was a good thing your wand backfired. Expect Lucius Malfoy would come marching up to school if you'd cursed his son. At least you're not in trouble. Harry would have pointed out that the trouble didn't come much worse than having slugs pouring out of your mouth, but he couldn't. Hagrid's treacle tart had cemented his jaws together. Harry, said Hagrid suddenly, as though struck by a sudden thought. Got a bone to pick you up with. Yeah, I've heard you've been giving out signed photos. How come I haven't got one? Furious, Harry blinked his teeth I have not been giving out signed photos. If Lockhart's still putting that about. I've not, no, I'm only, but then he saw Hagrid was laughing. I'm only joking, he said, patting Harry gently on the back and sending him face first under the table. I knew you had really. I told Lockhart you didn't need her. You're more famous than him without trying. Bet he didn't like that, said Harry, sitting up and rubbing his chin. Don't think he did, his eyes twinkling. And then I told him I never read any of one of his books, and he decided off to go. Trick or tart, he added, as Ron replied. No thanks, said Ron weakly. Better not risk it. Come and see what I have been growing. Getting on well, aren't they? Said Harry. No, in a small vegetable patch behind Hagrid's house were a dozen of largest pumpkins Harry had ever seen. Each was the size of a large boulder. Getting on well, aren't they? Said Hagrid happily, for the Halloween feast. Should be big enough by then. What you've been feeding them, said Harry. Hagrid looked over his shoulder to check that they were alone. Well, I've been giving them, a bit of help. Harry noticed Hagrid's flowery pink umbrella leaning against the back wall of the cabin. Harry had reason to believe from now that this umbrella was not all it looked. In fact, he had a strong impression that Hagrid's old school one was concealed inside it. Hagrid wasn't supposed to do magic. He had been expelled from Hogwarts in his third year, but Harry had never found out why. Any mention of the matter. And Hagrid would clear his throat loudly and become mysteriously deaf until the subject changed. An engorgement charm, I suppose, said Hermione, half with disapproval and amusement. Well, you've done a good job on them. That's what your little sister said. That's what your little sister said Hagrid, nodding at Ron. Met her just yesterday. Hagrid said sideways at Harry, his beard twitching. Said he was just looking around the grounds, but I reckon she was hoping she might run into someone else at my house. He winked at Harry. If you ask me, she wouldn't say no to a signed. Oh, shut up, said Hagrid. Ron snorted with laughter, and the ground was sprayed with slugs. Watch it, Hagrid roared, pulling Ron away from his precious pumpkins. Alliteration, precious pumpkins. It was nearly lunchtime, and as Harry had only had one bit of treacle-torts since dawn, he was keen to go back to school to eat. They said goodbye to Harry and walked back up the castle. One hiccoughing occasionally, but only bringing up 2 very small slugs. They had barely set foot in the entrance hall when a voice rang out. "There you are, Potter, Weasley." Professor McGonagall walking towards them, looking sad. "You will both do your detentions this evening." "What are we doing, Professor?" said Ron nervously, suppressing a burp. "You will be polishing the silver in the trophy with Mr. Filch," said Professor McGonagall. "And no Madam Weasley elbow grease," Ron gulped. Argus Filch, the caretaker, was loathed by every student in the school. "And you, Potter, you will be helping Professor Lockhart answer his fan mail," said Professor McGonagall. "Oh no, can't I do and do the trophy room too?" Harry desperately. "Certainly not," said Professor McGonagall, raising her eyebrows. "Professor Lockhart requested you particularly." 8 o'clock sharp, both of you." Harry and Ron slouched into the great hall in states of deepest gloom. Hermione behind them, wearing a "well, you did break school rules" sort of expression. Harry didn't fancy his Shitter's pie as much as he thought. Both he and Ron felt they'd got the worst deal. "Filch will have me there all night," said Ron heavily. "No magic. There must be about 100 cups in that room. I'm no good at muggle cleaning." "I'd sort any time," said Harry hollowly. "I've had loads of practice with the Dursleys. Answering Lockhart's fan mail, it will be nightmare." Saturday afternoon seemed to melt away, and what it seemed like. It's 5 minutes to 8, and Harry was dragged his feet along the second floor corridor to Lockhart's office. He gritted his teeth and knocked. The door flew open at once. Lockhart beamed down at him. "Ah, here's the scallywag," he said. "Come in, Harry, come in." Shining brightly on the walls by the light of many candles were countless frames of photographs of Lockhart. He had even signed a few of them. Another large pile lay on his desk. "You can address the envelopes," Lockhart told Harry, as though this was a huge treat. "This first one's to Gladys Gudgeon, bless her, huge fan of mine." The minutes snailed by. Harry let Lockhart's voice wash over him, occasionally saying and "right" and "yeah." Now and then he caught a phrase like "fame's a fickle friend, Harry," or celebrity is as celebrity does. Remember that." The candle burned lower and lower. making the light dance over the many moving pieces of Lockhart watching him. Harry moved his aching hand over what looked like the 7th envelope, writing out Veronica's Smithly's address. It must nearly be time to leave, Harry thought miserably. Please let it nearly be time. It was a voice to chill in a bone, a voice of breathtaking, ice cold venom. Come to me, let me rip you, let me take you, let me kill you. Harry gave a huge jump, and a large lilac blot appeared on Veronica's Smithly Street. What? He said loudly. I know. Said Lockhart, 6 solid months at the top of the bestseller list. Broke all the records. No, said Harry frantically. That voice. Sorry, said Lockhart, looking puzzled. What voice? That voice that said. Didn't you hear it? Lockhart was looking at Harry in high astonishment. What are you talking about, Harry? Perhaps you're getting a little jazzed. Great Scott, look at the time. We've been in had nearly 4 hours. I have never believed it. The time's flown, hasn't it? Harry didn't answer. He was straining his ears to hear the voice again, but there was no sound now except for Lockhart telling him that he mustn't expect a treat like this every time Scott earned attention. Feeling dazed, Harry left. It was so late that the Gryffindor common room was almost empty. Harry went straight up to the dormitory. Ron wasn't back yet. Half an hour later, Ron arrived, nursing his right arm and bringing a strong smell of polish into the darkened room. My muscles have all seized up, he groaned, sinking on his bed. 14 times he made me buff up that Quidditch cup before he was satisfied. And then I had another slug attack, all of a special award of services to the school. Took ages to shift off the slime. How was it with Lockhart, keeping his voice low so not to wake Neville, Dean and Seamus? Harry told Ron exactly what he had heard. And Lockhart said he couldn't hear it, said Ron. Harry could see him frowning in the moonlight. Do you think he's lying? But I don't get it. Even someone invisible could have opened the door. But I know, said Harry, lying back in his four-poster and staring at the canopy above him. I don't get it either. End of chapter 7. Bye.